So I decided to turn the track around for starters. I decided to turn the starting line and go right directly toward the grandstands. I thought that was a much better idea to really give those people a good show.
The good show does not end with a start. Being an ex-racer, Gary knows what riders can do, and being a fan, he knows what looks spectacular.
I try and look at all the obstacles, not only last year, but the beginning of this year. We've had 6 races already before this, and it gives me an opportunity to look at all the jumps that work, and I try and incorporate all the good jumps that work and put them into my racetrack.
Spectacular starts and jumps are not the only considerations. Bailey knows that as the day wears on, the track wears out. A new sprinkling system was added to control dust and to keep corners and whoops from falling apart. Eye appeal is another consideration. If you didn't know better, you'd think you were watching Supercross on the 18th fairway of a country club. But the looks and spectacular jumps are nothing if there is no room to pass.
All the corners, I think you're going to see better passing this year than ever before. We worked them really hard in practice and tried to create 2 lines everywhere, and I think that's really going to make the racing good.
The track was tested early in the week when over 500 amateur Supercross riders invaded Daytona. I did say amateur, but that's a little misleading. For example, 13-year-old Hank Murray Jr. from Society Hill, South Carolina. He's been racing a mere 6 years, but in that period of time, he's racked up over 15 national titles, including 2 in World Mini Competition, and in 1985, he was the overall winner of Europe's Youth International Invitational. At Daytona, Marie, number 37, was the winner of the tough 85cc expert division. On the other end of the scale was 52-year-old, 2-time Camel Pro champion and Daytona veteran Dick Mann from California. Mann has twice won the Daytona 200, and both of his wins were historic occasions. In 1970, on a Honda, he became the first rider to win Daytona on a Japanese cycle. In 1971, on a BSA, he was the last rider to win on a non-Japanese cycle. He's seen a lot of changes since then.
When I first started, it was just another race. Paid a little more money, it was just another race. But the whole week and the atmosphere and the whole thing down here now is just, it's a big deal. And so much goes on, if you were to miss 3 or 4 of the races, you still couldn't take in the whole week.
Dick Mann's Daytona fame stems from road racing, but it was motocross, make that vintage motocross, that brought him back to the speedway, and for a very good reason.
Besides being just a lot of fun to do it and bringing back good memories, I think it's basically pretty important to keep a real good touch on the heritage and the roots of what motocross is now, and be sure that we can look right at and see how it began. And to be able to ride these bikes and lure back some of the riders who rode them, I think is pretty important.
The best of the vintage class was BSA mounted number 2N Barry Higgins from Marietta, Georgia. Higgins, a retired pro motocrosser, showed the crowd how to ride whoops with 3 inches of suspension and what happens when you ride whoops with 3 inches of suspension. Despite that get-off, Higgins was the winner of both motos. Dick Mann finished 3rd overall. ATVs were also part of the amateur invasion. For some riders, it was an opportunity to become better acquainted. For others, though, it was serious business, racing business. Mike Holbert from Mount Morris, Pennsylvania, and around there they call him the Quad God, proved to be the best businessman on the track and won the ATV championship. It's almost Supercross main event time, but before the gate drops, let's take a few minutes to recap the heat races held earlier today. Team Honda's Vicky Diamond, number 43 from Yorba Linda, California, grabbed an early lead in heat race number 1 and held it to the finish. The other 6 qualifying positions went to Alan King, Larry Brooks, Jeff Hicks, Billy Frank, George Holland, and Andy Stacy. In the second heat, number 12, Team Yamaha's Jim Holly had the start wired. With an inside line, Holly grabbed the hole shot and never looked back. Behind Holly at the finish line and qualifying for the main event was Rick Ryan, Billy Lyles, Ali Simar, Canadian Arnaud Bernard, Mickey Kessler, and Dave Hollis. The first big factory confrontation took place in heat race number 3 with Team Honda's O-Show, Johnny O'Mara, going up against Yamaha's Keith Bones Bowen and rider number 4, Brock Glover. Check the smiles from the Yamaha camp and you'll know the story. Brock Glover took the lead on the opening lap and cruised to an easy win. Glover was followed by teammate Keith Bowen, Canadian Ross Peterson, Mike Healy, Johnny O'Mara, Doug Hoover, another Canadian, And in the final transfer spot, Guy Cooper. Tom Mueller, our pit reporter, talked to Glover after the win.
Well, Rocky more or less dominated this heat race by the second lap, had almost a half-lap lead. Must have things figured out today.
Well, I feel a lot better today, that's for sure. I got a good start out of there, and I just rode my comfortable pace and didn't make too many mistakes and got to try some new lines out there, so at least in the main event, I'll be familiar with the whole track.
The top 3 riders in the Supercross standings were all in heat race number 4. Defending Supercross champion Jeff Ward was ranked 3rd. Former champion David Bailey 2nd, and would-be champion Rick Johnson with 3 1986 Supercross wins was in 1st. Pit reporter Tom Mueller talked to Johnson and Bailey prior to the race.
How's your racing today? You pretty confident?
Yeah, I was having a little bit of trouble getting going in practice because there was so many slower riders out there, but I feel comfortable now, and I think I'll do good.
You won in 84, and the thing went just out of reach in 85. Are you hungry to win it again this season?
I'm definitely hungry. I didn't eat anything all day.
A starvation diet, though, was not quite enough. Johnson led throughout the heat, followed by teammate David Bailey. In the late stages of the race, Bailey closed on Johnson, but his charge came up short. Ward finished 3rd, followed by JoJo Keller, Danny Storbeck, A.J. Whiting, and Scott Manley.
You're on a big roll this year with a bunch of Supercross wins. Can you do it again for the main event here?
I sure hope so. I feel good. I've been working a lot with my mechanic, Brian, and, you know, the people from Team Honda are really supportive of me. You know, I really don't feel like an outcast. You know, as soon as I've got over in that camp, they've really treated me good. They made me feel at home, and I think that's part of my reason for my success.
Rick Johnson, winner of heat race number 4.
Joining the top 7 riders from each heat race in the main event are the top 4 finishers from 2 semifinals and a last chance qualifier. And that sets the stage. 40 riders are at the gate for the 12-lap main event.
I wish I was one of them. I've got a good seat up here, but I'd love to be out on that track.
I know you would. I could see you just chomping at the bit. But the gate is about to drop, and there it goes. The 1986 Daytona Supercross is underway. One of the most prestigious.
Oh, there's a pile up and a couple guys down. I think a couple of them are cutting the course. Johnny O, maybe.
The 2 riders that were down, one of them is Jeff Hicks. Looks like Mike Healy. They're up. Brock Glover takes the whole shot. He's followed by teammate.
Whoa, Bailey's trying to go under Hawley, gets stuck. Everybody's going by him.
At least 15 to 20 riders have gone by David Bailey. What a mistake he's made so early in the race. What was he thinking of?
Boy, I don't know. It's too early in the race to be making a move like that, though.
Bob, the 2 riders that you saw cutting the track, what are the consequences there?
Well, they should have went back and went around and went right on and where they exited the track. If they don't, they cut the course like that, they could be docked a lap and be put right out of the race.
The leader on this Gary Bailey-designed racetrack, and he's heading now for one of the toughest parts of the track, is rider number 4, the golden boy of motocross from El Cajon, California, Brock Glover for Team Yamaha. Behind him is teammate number 12, that's Jim Holly. Running in 3rd, 43 is Mickey Diamond, then Rick Johnson, Keith Bowen, and Jeff Ward. Bob, let's take another look at that first corner crash. Almost to the first corner, and everything looks fine.
Well, it looks like Healy's bumped somebody, run about 5 of them off, gone straight, and has fallen himself, and O'Mara's off the track.
You're right, O'Mara cut about 30 feet off the track. He ran around the jump, and he'll have a problem if he's caught. Here's the second corner incident, Bob, that involved Holly and Bailey. It looks like Holly has the inside line.
Well, he did have the inside. Bailey tried to go underneath, throw him out, intimidate him, and get him out of there. Holly's just too big a boy to pull at him.
He paid the penalty for that, and that's costly this early in the race.
Yes, I don't think I would have done that on the opening lap. He should have saved that for later in the race.
Back to the action, and it's still Brock Glover, rider number 4, Team Yamaha in front, and he's followed by Mickey Diamond, number 43 for Team Honda, has gone down. Bob, this is a tough section.
Yeah, the whoops in that section are staggered, and they're very difficult to establish a rhythm.
And look at this. David Bailey, rider number 6, has worked his way through the pack. He's putting on an incredible drive.
I think that first corner crash, second corner crash has made him mad, and I think he's riding like a wild man right now.
Bob, you've been in situations like this. Can a crash actually affect you that way? I would think it would take something out of you.
No, I think it puts something in you. I think you know he had a chance to win this race coming into it. That crash has hurt his chance, but he knows if he tries 110, he may have one more shot at it.
Well, it's a short race. It's only 12 laps long. This is an extremely rough track. I suppose, though, anything could happen. We're watching Brock Glover, rider number 4, running into number 2 position is Jim Holly. There you see him coming into the screen. In third, Rick Johnson. Johnson is the man that's under the gun. He's the rider that everyone expected to win this race. And now here goes Brock Glover in the roughest section of the track. Look at the line that Glover's taking. I don't understand this.
I don't understand why he's taking that left line. It seems like he's been taking it in practice, and Holly definitely took the right line, and the right side of the track is a lot smoother, a lot faster.
Off that finish line jump, Holly got a tremendous amount of air as the riders worked their way around this racetrack. Is all that air necessary?
Well, Larry, some jumps it is, and on that particular jump it is. They have a pit on the other side of it. If you don't clear the pit, you hit the wall, lose a second or two every time you do it.
Brock Glover, an experienced Supercross rider. He's won his share. He's never won at Daytona. That could fire the guy up.
Yeah, I'm sure he's feeling the pressure out there. He's got to set the pace. He knows everybody's hot on his heels, and you can tell he's feeling the pressure.
Rick Johnson just biding his time back in the number 3 position. There's your leader, Brock Glover. For that jump, when he came down, he just nosedived into the ground and smashed his face, and now he's got a problem. He's sitting at the bottom, and in fact, it looks like he may be hurt.
Yes, I believe his adrenaline was running. He tried to get back on his bike and get going. Now I think he knows he's shaken up, and he's having second thoughts about it.
Well, the important thing is, apparently he is not seriously injured, and that is good news. They're dragging his bike off the track. The riders coming off the top of the jump now have a clear landing field. Back with the leaders, and what a battle we've got out in front. Rick Johnson, in number 2 position, has been putting the pressure on Brock Glover since he inherited that number 2 spot from Jim Holly. Now here comes the battle. It's Glover, Johnson, and Jeff Ward, a 3-way battle for the number 1 spot.
Larry, you better make that a 4-way battle. Bailey's going faster than anybody on the track.
He definitely is doing that. Bailey, since that opening lap crash, has really been on the gas. Bailey is riding an unbelievable race. Out in front, it's Rick Johnson. He's rider number 5 out of your screen. That's Brock Glover that you're looking at, number 4, and Jeff Ward, number 1, the defending champ, right in his rear wheel. Ward has been trying for almost a full lap to get around Glover, but no dice. Glover has been the effective roadblock that Johnson was looking for. But Bob Hanna, they're coming to that section of the track where Glover has persisted, and he's doing it again. Bob.
I didn't think he'd take this line again, Larry, but he is, and Wardy's has a smooth line, and it's all over for Brock.
So Jeff Ward, the defending Supercross champion, has moved into the number 2 position. That'll put Brock Glover 3rd, and the question in my mind now, Bob Hanna, is, will Jeff Ward catch Johnson before David Bailey catches Ward?
There's no telling. They've got a dice going here, but Johnson, as you can see, is in complete control of the race at the moment. He's riding smooth and aggressive, and he's got the clean line.
But not a clean track. In front of him, Bob, there are several riders that he's going to have to lap, and traffic could be a factor in the outcome of this race.
Yes, it could. Daytona is the only place where we run a full field of 40 riders, and it can get pretty messy out there. They don't always go where you think they will.
Well, what can you do about it?
Well, you watch them close, you go where your instincts tell you, and you pray a lot more.
Well, evidently, Rick Johnson spent the morning in church, and he did his praying. He's moving through traffic with absolutely no problem. You're looking at the leader of the Daytona Supercross, the most prestigious race in the world. Rick Johnson, coming into this Supercross event, had won 3 of the 6 races run in the series, and he would like to use this Daytona race as race number 4. But Jeff Ward, rider number 1 on a Kawasaki, has other ideas. He's setting into number 2 position, and he has started to close on Johnson. But here is the story in the race, Bob. The battle for 3rd, Brock Glover and David Bailey.
Oh, Bailey's been coming from the back, as you said, 15th, 20th place, and just getting them one at a time, one at a time. He's right on Brock here, and he is moving in hard.
If Brock makes one little slip, Bailey is going to have him for lunch, and they're coming upon traffic.
Yeah, this traffic could mean anything, you know. It could be help out Brock or help out David, so there's no telling what can happen.
And Brock Glover put himself behind a couple of lap riders. Bailey has an outside line.
Boy, that did it. Bailey got him. And this traffic really hurt Brock there. He must have picked a bad one, followed the traffic into that corner. Bailey went around the outside, and now it's gone.
Bob, when you're riding a race like a Supercross or an outdoor for that matter, you have to consider the traffic ahead of you when you're being pushed from behind.
That's the most important time. If you're by yourself, Larry, it's not that big a deal. But when somebody's right behind you, it's kind of like a guess. You guess as you're going right or left, and you just got to go from there.
And in this case, Brock Glover guessed wrong and David Bailey guessed right. As a reward, he moves into the number 3 position. He'll immediately set out to close as much of the gap as he possibly can on Jeff Ward in the time remaining. Ward running up in the number 2 position, and Bailey has really closed. Bob, Bailey can see the back of Ward's jersey.
Yeah, he sees him, and he's hot after him. He's taking some good lines here. He's really moving back.
And look at that! Well, Bailey knocked Ward off the track. I don't believe it. He took an inside line. It looked to me like Ward was already there, Bob, and they collided. Jeff Ward is down.
Larry, I'm not so sure that was David's fault.
Let's take another look, and we'll see.
Jeff Ward went to the outside and squared it off. David went for the inside. They both met in the berm at the same time. I don't think it was anybody's fault.
Rick Johnson from Team Honda, rider number 5, is the leader. He took over the lead approximately midway through this race, and he's not had a challenge since that point. However, teammate David Bailey is coming up behind Johnson. He's come from out of the pack, but time is on Johnson's side, and Bailey has to be tired, Bob.
Yeah, I think he should be a little tired by now. He is riding fast, maybe faster than anybody on the track, but Johnson has his lines. He has a clear shot at the lead, and I just don't think Bailey's going to be able to catch him.
Well, Bailey probably at this point is thinking otherwise. He's not about to give up now after the incredible ride that this young man has put in. Earlier this week, we asked David Bailey what it would take for him to put the package together and beat Rick Johnson.
It's going to be tough to beat Rick. He seems to have a formula this year where he just concentrates really hard on what he's got to do. He practices a lot of starts when he's practicing. He's been getting off the line super every race. He's been top 3, and that's been one of the keys to his success so far because he's right up front. And if you can't catch Rick normally, you'll never be able to catch him with a bad start. So I think the only way I'm going to be able to beat him is to beat him off the line.
You're watching David Bailey, currently running in the number 2 position. Ahead of him, Honda teammate Rick Johnson. When Johnson crosses the finish line this next time around, he'll receive the white flag. That signifies just 1 lap to go. Bob, if you're going to win one race a year, it's got to be Daytona.
Oh, for sure. Daytona's always been the one for me, and David just about went down. David Bailey knows this is the race to win, and Ricky Johnson in a couple laps looks like he's going to know it too.
Earlier this week, we had the opportunity to visit with Ricky Johnson about Daytona and what it would mean for him to win this Daytona Supercross.
Well, I haven't won Daytona yet, and it would definitely be something special to win. It's probably the biggest race on the circuit, and it would mean a lot for me to win it, but I'm not really going at it as if a do-or-die situation. I have the points lead in the Supercross series, so I'm considering that, so I don't want to blow all my chances for the championship on one race. So I'm going at it as I'd like to win it. I'm going to do whatever I can to win it, but I'm not going to ride over my head.
For the past 3 years, Rick Johnson's mechanic, Brian Lunas, worked with Bob Hanna. We couldn't help but ask Brian to compare the 2 riders.
There's a lot of similarities between Bob Hanna and Rick Johnson. They both want to win very bad, and they're willing to work at it. And they're aggressive, and they're not afraid to be a little outspoken about it, and I think that helps motivate them.
Well, Brian says the 2 of you are a lot alike, so Bob, put yourself on Rick Johnson's motorcycle. You have a big lead. It's the last lap. How do you ride it?
Well, I would do the same thing I've done about the last 10 laps, Larry. I wouldn't do anything crazy, and I wouldn't do any of those cross-ups. That shows you how young he is and how old I am. Just try to get through without any bad incidents.
I'm sure that has to be the foremost thing on Rick Johnson's mind. He's heading now off the top of that double jump, that camelback, down through the roughest area of the racetrack where he put the pass on Brock Glover to take over the number 1 position. He's headed toward the finish line, and in just one more jump with hands off the handlebars, Rick Johnson has won the 1986 Daytona Supercross. A sweep for Honda of first and second as David Bailey with a cross-up takes that number 2 position.
It feels so good to win here. All the people, the weather's nice. Got a little cloudy today, but, you know, Florida, I've sort of made it my home away from home, and I finally won here. I'm really happy.
So victory in the Daytona Supercross to Rock and Ricky Johnson over David Bailey with Brock Glover.
Set now.